Ian, I noticed, again from your site, that you are now in the top 100 sustainable companies. I think the number was 67, but
got to improve.
How do you benchmark yourselves? So do you benchmark yourselves against other retail businesses? Because you mentioned, by inference, John Lewis. There are others who are kind of in your sector and have this focus. Do you benchmark yourselves against kind of other great sustainable businesses? You're a metric-oriented guy to a degree. How do you do that?
I think it's quite a challenge because sustainability in broader sense is such a big topic, and I think there is a danger you can just disappear into lots and lots of activity. So what we've said is, look, we're picking these 4 big themes because that's where we think we can make a difference. So I completely impressed, for example, what Paul Polman's doing at Unilever on things like palm oil is great. I haven't got anything useful to say on palm oil, so I'm not really going to get overexcited. I've got views on it, but that's not for us. So we're trying to measure, we're setting up our own metrics on the 4 key themes. And then we are doing the sort of foundation stuff. So yeah, what are our emissions, what's our waste, all, if you like, what I would call business as usual. And on the 4 themes, we're trying to articulate right now, in fact, which are the metrics, and then we're going to set ourselves up to be measured. I think it's very, very hard to measure yourself more generally. And I mean, the sustainability index and things like that, I mean, it's great that there is a way of putting focus on this topic. I think it's really hard to compare apples and pears. And so we are, in some senses, very open because we'll look at anything that we can learn from anybody who's doing something great, fantastic. The great thing about retailing is we steal with pride. I'm very happy to take good ideas from anywhere. But I think what we're increasingly trying to do is say, actually, on the metrics that matter, we've picked our 4 themes. Now let's define those and really get after making a difference in those 4 areas.
But those 4 themes are kind of sustainability themes. A lot of the people in the audience here are very involved in what you would more describe as social innovation. Have you considered incorporating social or ethical models into your business model?
Yeah, well, again, the sort of construct I think we're trying to articulate, and we'll probably have it, I think, done for next year rather than this year.
We'll have you back.
It's a more accurately say, look, what is actually our overall purpose? You know, why is the company in existence? And we've got various different sort of definitions at the moment, but it's something around better homes and better lives. And it is the sort of thing that people in the stores around the world really get their kicks out of, and people designing product, is how do you help people have a better life through their home being better? And that, I think, is absolutely fine for an organisation, a commercial organisation, to have. I think we probably can do, certainly on the community agenda, a lot more on our social agenda. We've got a long history of being involved in community, and I think it makes sense for a sort of locally based organisation. I think we are struggling when we get into something which is more in the social enterprise, social business area. So we are definitely at sort of one end of the spectrum, trying to enlarge, if you like, the social purpose of the business, but probably not to the point of saying, look, we're not going to transform next week into something very different. Okay.
I, as you can imagine, have more and more questions, but does anybody have any burning thing they want to challenge Ian on? Just raise your hand. Just right over there. Please say who you are, please, when you stand up. It's right behind you, the mic, sir.
Edward Kearns of Kearns & Co. It just strikes me, I welcome what Kingfisher's doing, but it seems to me as a consumer, why has it taken mainstream business so long to wake up to the fact that the best way of doing business is with the community and with the planet, rather than sort of setting yourself up against it? And it, yeah.
It's a great question in the sense that it seems to me completely self-evident that, you know, by definition, a successful business has to be sustainable in the broadest sense of the word, i.e. it has to work for both the planet and the social context it operates in. I think it's more widespread than maybe the press or, you know, certainly the city would sort of automatically say. And I'm also personally struck by having been a CEO for 3 years and increasingly met sort of other CEOs, actually it's, in my experience, more common than not. And it's, what's really interesting is that is, as you're rightly saying, I don't think that's the perception, actually, and maybe, you know, maybe the business community's got there and it's a well-kept secret, but I think increasingly you're seeing people actually willing to come out now and say, no, this is important, we are going to do this. And I think there were a lot of chief executives who sort of gave a quiet cheer when Paul Polman said, look, if you don't like this type of company, don't invest in it. And, you know, there was that wonderful sense of liberation, which said, you know, it'd be nice to be able to say that every quarter. But I think where we are is I think there is a different generation coming through who are more interested and more aware. And I think that awareness is also increasingly not just the CEOs, it's all the way down the business.
And it's genuine, not just cynical greenwash.
Yeah, I mean, it would. I think the thing is, the world is so utterly transparent now. If you look at what happens with media, you cannot pretend to be one thing and then show up and actually behave in other ways. It's not to say, you know, we'll get everything perfect, but if you don't really have the positive intent to do this, you will be found out so much more quickly than ever before, and you'll be punished, and frankly, rightly. So I think people can increasingly say, look, I may not be able to go, you know, to sort of some level of perfection, but I know I've at least got to try to do something which is a positive contribution, and I know if I get it right, I'll engage internally and externally, and that'll help the business.
Other questions? A gentleman in the back with a pink tie, and then this person here. Who are you?
I'm Will from My Kind of Crowd. Quick question, the social impact that you could have, I guess, with 860 stores could be very much about employability opportunities for young people. Yeah. How active are you in schemes like the apprenticeship scheme?
Great.
Thank you.
Very good. Very. We've, in the last 3 years, from a fairly low base, admittedly, ramped up our apprenticeship program. Actually, my favourite bit about our apprenticeship program at the moment is that we go from 17 to 68 years old on it, because although the youth unemployment, I think, is a key issue, I think there's also an older worker thing for which B&Q's been very involved over the years. And I think employers have a real need to get involved in the skills development. I think increasingly we've invested more and more in things like City and Guilds training inside the business. And I think particularly around apprenticeships, there is a model there which is, I think, really vital, because I think some of the educational issues we've seen in the country are potentially leaving a gap, and apprenticeships, I think, are absolutely key, and I've been involved with them personally for the last 3 years, and I hope we can carry on growing them very rapidly.
Okay, there was just right there.
Hello, I'm Simon from Global Tolerance. With amount of timber the size of Switzerland, yeah. How widespread is your sustainable timber purchasing policy, and is that at the core of your social objectives? Absolutely.
Well, the stats at the moment, last year we measured it, group-wide, 81% of the timber we source is sustainable or fully certified, which, by the way, includes things like all the kitchens you buy at B&Q are 100% FSC, all the sort of hammer, all the little bits on a sort of screwdriver, everything you see, down to the last 3 products in B&Q we had most trouble with was sandpaper. We couldn't seem to find anyone who would produce FSC certified sandpaper. This year we just finally got, for the first one in the UK, we're fairly sure, to get 100% certified wood product. And it's something we're now going to be talking much more sort of positively about. I think it's part of what we do, and we're involved with, we're a founder member of FSC, and we're involved with other organisations. I think it's, as I say, one of 4 elements there. We want to try and make a difference in that area, but also in other areas. But one of the things I really would like businesses to get better at is to help customers make changes by the way they buy and the way they are aware of what they're actually buying. And so responsible buying on behalf of consumers, I think, is a big angle for businesses to pull.
These questions are too easy. Can somebody please, how about right here?
Oh, great.
Somebody beat him up a bit.
Where's the plant?
Oh, goodness, I'm not sure if I'm the person for that. I'm Leah McPherson. I'm the founder and managing director of Cultivate London.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I've got to say the London stores of B&Q sit fairly high on my ultimate list of customers. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, I have 2 questions for you. One is, what are your thoughts and your team's thoughts on supporting social enterprise or social and environmental impacts from a CSR perspective versus a doing business perspective? Because one of the things from as much as I would love investment, the best thing that can happen to Cultivate London is that I land some really big customers who can take volume.
We're running out of time, so could you ask a few questions?
So that's one thing, and I guess the other thing is in terms of B&Q and your massive scale, how do you look at getting the products in your stores that you need versus buying locally and sustainable products?
Okay, maybe do second one first. We have got across the board a fairly rigorous supply qualification piece, which is at the moment focused more on sustainable rather than probably local. The two elements of local we do very much concentrate on is local suppliers of things like the wood products and charcoal, for example, bioregionals charcoal. If there are other relevant products, we absolutely would be doing them and will continue to do them. It is a challenge, though, when you're this scale of B&Q, because suppliers just struggle with the sheer scale of it. But the sustainability requirements are very tough all the way through the supply chain. So I'm fairly confident, that we're working well on that area. I think in terms of the local impact and what we can do as a local store, say in London, we've traditionally allowed our stores to decide what they want to do around a certain theme. So we've ended up with a pretty diverse bunch of solutions, which actually I quite like, because it means that the local team is driving it rather than someone sitting in an office in Paddington. What we are looking at is a series of initiatives for next year which are more national, but allowing a linked partnership. So maybe cultivate something we could have a talk about, because we've had a couple of other areas to do things like Woodland Trust and some ideas about planting trees and urban gardens. So very interested in it, but trying not to control everything from the centre.
Great. That's all the time we have for questions. We're going to continue with this panel, but if you could please join me in thanking Ian Cheshire.
Thanks.